Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Another stickball report, Bob, and some good, some bad, mostly good on your side of the fence here with the softball program 31-1. We talked about the Baylor matchup in the Baylor series. First off, let's start here. Hall of Fame Stadium looked awesome on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, they were very close to setting the record again. 8,000, 7, 9, 8, not bad at all. Great environment, and you could tell maybe those freshmen took a little bit of time, like Ella Parker getting adjusted. Like, this is what it's going to be like, hopefully, as long as you get there when June comes around. But another great weekend that I'm sure, Patty and the players will remember for a long, long time. You
mentioned it at the, I think right before we started recording, just the fact that it's been somebody different every week. This past week, it was Elena Torres's week as she has the pinch hit grand slam on Friday night. And I think that kind of was sparked everything that was to come in a successful sweep of Baylor.
Yeah, I mean, we went into that weekend thinking, okay, the Baylor pitching is going to test these hitters. Like, if OU's offense is really making the strides it needs to, as we're about to get into April, this will be the weekend where we really find it out. And, here's Patty Gasso making the move, and she's like, it's a no-brainer. Pinch hit, Elena Torres, bases loaded. Torres comes through, makes Gasso look like a genius, and it's like, and the beat rolls on. The fifth inning of, those first two games, it's a 1-1 game going in to that fifth, and then it's 8-1. And it's 5-3 going into the bottom of the fifth. And then it's a 12-3 run rule with an Ella Parker walk-off grand slam. And it's just, they wear you down. Like, maybe you'll get them once. Maybe if you'll get lucky, you'll get them twice. But if you ever have to go through them like another time, there's just always going to be someone that's ready for that moment. And when their number is called, they're going to come through.
Riley Ludlam has been behind the plate quite a bit, and I think that this is a little bit of an underlying story, especially when you talk about getting to Oklahoma City, getting to the Women's College World Series, maybe even closing out another Big 12 regular season championship. Kinzie Hansen, what's the status of her moving forward? She's been out of the lineup here over the course of about the last week or so.
Yeah, I mean, we're going almost 2 full weeks.
It
was Friday in Lubbock.
Okay.
And she had one at bat, and then she hadn't seen any time at all until the pinch hit appearance on Saturday during the second game. And how Patty phrased it, tweaking the knee. And when she talked to us last week, she mentioned it'll be a couple weeks. So I think people that were just naturally assuming that's coach speak, oh, Kinzie will actually be back. No, it's going to be a couple weeks. So if she's not back for Austin, then you start to worry just a bit. But what Riley Ludlam's been able to do has been, nothing short of impressive. Just someone who came, as we've talked before, Patty had no idea who she was going into the portal. When you lose Sophia Nugent, when you're like, oh no, I got to find someone. But a lot of the top portal catchers are gone, and just let's look at this girl. Let's see if she, wants to come OU. And Riley not believing that's Patty on the phone.
Right, I was going to ask. She was the one that she picked up the phone, was like, is this really Patty Gasso?
Are you pranking me? And, she comes on the visit, commits a couple days, during that weekend. And just there's that calmness, it comes with the experience and it comes with the production. And she just does it. She's never looked in over her head the entire season. And it's a huge thing now because I think that's what a lot of people are like, well, your role is the backup. That's not easy to always accept. And she's accepted 100% of the way. And then you always know you're one injury from being the everyday starter. And that's what she's going through the last couple of weeks, and she's really shining through.
The thing that I remember talking to, we have Kinzie Hansen on the radio every other week. Her and Jada Coleman kind of go back and forth. And it was really interesting at the beginning of the season talking to Kinzie just in terms of her veteran leadership behind the plate, knowing all of the 5-6 different pitchers that Oklahoma was going to use and understanding how each one of them is different. It's interesting that Riley Ludlam now has to kind of step into that role and know all of these pitchers who she's probably still familiarizing herself with.
Absolutely. And it's something we asked Jen Rocha about on Tuesday, just the mix match of all these personalities, blending them in together, understanding where their strengths are and what they need to work on and how that works with Riley trying to call the games and trying to bring the best out of them. There hasn't been that hiccup yet. I mean, that's a credit to the pitching staff and what they've been able to do, especially during conference play, but you wonder, maybe you can get through it going to Lawrence, playing Kansas for 3 games. But what would happen if we're in this scenario next weekend, number 2 Texas in Austin for that 3-game set?
And even more so if this were to extend for, weeks on weeks on weeks, and then all of a sudden you're going into regionals or Big 12 tournament or anything like that, getting Kinzie Hansen is going to be super, super important for this team. If nothing else, just from a defensive perspective. How was the pitching over the week against Baylor?
Just another solid outing. It's weird because, I did all this research about the Baylor pitching, and then I look up, Baylor as a team had 7 home runs going into the weekend. That's just
That's insane.
Like, you've got multiple players in double digits.
Sure.
Baylor's a team had 7, and they kind of play station to station. And yeah, there were a couple innings that maybe they weren't at their best, but they were able to get a lot of them work. You're able to. I think the biggest thing you take from it is Kirsten Deal, although part of it was her fault, working out of bases loaded in the 2nd and 3rd innings. And in the 2nd inning, bases loaded, nobody out, and not giving up a run. And then bases loaded in the 3rd inning and getting out of it again. It was just, that's the type of maturation, the evolution of her game, the type of trust factor that, Rocha and Gasso are showing in her. And that's the type of moment that leads you to get, when you get to Austin and when you get to Bedlam, and say, Kirsten Deal can get us through this moment.
No doubt. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, as you said. Now, there was a schedule change this week. They were supposed to be playing in Wichita on Tuesday night. That game now moved to April 9th, up in Wichita again. But so the next couple of weeks, Kansas this weekend, and then it sets up no midweek game, and it sets up for the big series down in Austin next weekend.
Yeah, and because of the doubleheader, they had Sunday off. And
right.
the girls were talking about that like crazy. We got Sunday off. We got a free day. And so
believe me, when baseball moved, I was like, okay, yeah. I got a free Sunday.
So Sunday's off, and then Tuesday you're not making a trip to Kansas.
Sure.
So all of a sudden you got this. It's not a real break. It's not a massive break by any stretch. But we're halfway through the season, and you got like a little extra couple days that you didn't see coming. So we'll see if that's a little bit being refreshed, being recharged, hitting the reset. And now you go to Kansas, which has been one of the hottest teams within the conference, sweeping Baylor, sweeping Houston, 7-2, now ranked in some of the polls. So all the series that just look like a tune-up, I mean, we've all thought that entire season.
Right.
The tune-up, it actually is going to mean something in Lawrence this weekend.
And by the way, both softball and baseball, with Easter coming up on Sunday, the series it starts Thursday and then obviously runs the 3-game set for through Saturday for softball up in Lawrence, as well as baseball, who will be hosting Lamar over the course of the weekend. Oklahoma coming off of a 10-0 run rule. I've never been in a press box where Oklahoma scores the 10th run in the bottom of the 7th on Tuesday night, and both teams just came out of the dugout, and I think everybody kind of looked at each other like, all right, I guess we're done here. Nobody had started working. Nobody had done anything. I think we were more locked on with the Thunder game. But a good performance, a good bounce back for the baseball program. I thought Grant Stevens was really good on Tuesday night. Reed Hensley was really good. And you can go all the way back to Friday's win over West Virginia in the combined no-hitter against West Virginia to open that series alongside Braden Davis, who was really good. That might have been the best that he has pitched in an Oklahoma uniform. I think Reed Hensley's starting to kind of carve out a role in the bullpen on the back end of games, which is obviously a positive. Now, you jump to Saturday, you get swept in a doubleheader. They didn't play well. I don't think that there's just any other way to say it. They did not play well. You lose your first conference series of the season to West Virginia, who's a good team, but it seemed like they were very gettable, especially the way that you open the series. That kind of leads into the conversation that is going into the Lamar series with Kyson Witherspoon, who is now in the Oklahoma starting rotation, the weekend rotation. I think this is a move that a lot of people had kind of speculated that it was going to come at some point this season. I don't know if we necessarily thought it was going to get the trigger pulled here in the last weekend of March.
Which day do you think it'll be?
Well, so it's interesting because they want to keep Braden Davis on Fridays. So he's going to stay on Friday, but with the accelerated start to the weekend, Brendan Girton will pitch on Thursday, Braden Davis on Friday. It's going to take me forever to get those two, just their names. They're too similar. And then Kyson Witherspoon will pitch on Saturday, which I think when you translate that into, next weekend or whatever, Oklahoma State coming up next weekend at O'Brate, I think you would see the traditional Braden Davis Friday, Brendan Girton Saturday, Kyson Witherspoon Sunday. We'll see how that is all going to work out. I think Skip is very dedicated to schedule, especially with his pitchers, and I think he wants to keep Braden Davis on Friday just to not mess with anything moving forward. So we'll see. I mean, Saturday they didn't get very good pitching. Girton wasn't very good in the first game, and then Jamie Hitt got lit up in the second game. And I think this is now 2 weeks in a row that Hitt has not had successful outings, or I guess 2 of the last 3 weeks he's been hit pretty good. Skip talks about, is he tipping pitches? They kind of feel like that's what it is. At some point, you got to get it figured out. You got to get outs. And that's what Grant Stevens did so well on Tuesday night was he wasn't overpowering by any means, which ORU is a little bit down after the College World Series run a year ago. But just can't just try to strike people out. You got to get outs.
And how's life without Spikerman and Frederick?
Surviving, I think, is probably the best way to say it. I mean, anybody that is around the baseball program knows how much John Spikerman means to that team, especially in center field. It looks like Jason Walk has started to get a little bit more comfortable defensively out there. I was kind of had some questions after the Friday night game against West Virginia. It looked like Kendall Pettis and Bryce Madron were very more than willing to call Walk off in center field. But I thought he looked really comfortable on Tuesday night. They just got to get through it. It's going to suck, and especially at the top of the order where Bryce Madron actually hit the ball extremely well on Tuesday night. That was kind of his debut, or not debut, but getting used to that leadoff role. Not something that he's unfamiliar with, and you just want to get Carter Frederick back because you saw the impact that he made offensively down in Fort Worth. So it's, I think overall, though, outside of, it was such like a high on Friday night with the no-hitter. Yep. First time since 2005 that they had a combined no-hitter, and the first no-hitter since Dane Acker doing it against LSU, which, I think Oklahoma baseball fans will always think about that 2020 season and what could have been. They paid it off, I guess 2 years later going to the College World Series. But at the same time, macro picture with baseball, really good start. You're 7-2 in conference play. Baseball America had an early regional projection today with Oklahoma actually hosting. And I think a lot of that has to do with their strength of the schedule, RPI. They're at the top of the Big 12 right now. Kansas State somehow has won 9 in a row. Pete Hughes, former, I guess, friend, if you will. They were expected to be pretty good. They're now in first place in the Big 12 at 8-1 overall. OU in second place at 7-2. And, I just reading kind of the inklings coming out of Austin right now. I know they're not happy with David Pierce as the Horns get beat over the week or on Tuesday night during the midweek by Corpus Christi. So it's
you mentioned
trying times.
Strength of schedule. Does Lamar do anything
That's
one
actually
way
a really
or
good
the
question.
other?
I don't know. Off to a 19-4 start, I wouldn't expect their RPI to just be tremendous. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be one of those crippling wins that you see in college baseball, how weird that is to be hurt by a win. I don't think that you're going to see that overall. Now, you go out and you kick the ball around and, you can't score and all of a sudden you get swept or something. You talk about a devastating weekend to what should be a really good end to an 8-game homestand leading into really the meat of the Big 12 schedule. I think that you just got to go out and take care of business. Win 2 of 3, get through the Tuesday night affair in Wichita next week, and then you're headed up to O'Brate, which should be a really big series coming up.
And amazing how cold it's been the last two days. Thursday through Saturday looks tremendous.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I think it's supposed to be like 80 over the weekend, which, I think anybody that was Josh Calloway and I were joking up in the press box on Tuesday night. Anybody that was in attendance at L. Mitchell Park, you should get season tickets. Maybe even to football, because that's dedication. It was miserable outside on Tuesday. So we'll see. That's about it, though, just in terms of baseball, softball, stickball stuff. I know that there's a lot going on right now as we really get into 32 games into the middle of the softball season. You're basically halfway home.
We are halfway there. It took me a minute to realize that, wow, we really are.
Talking about College World Series stuff, that's at the end of May. That's not too far away. You're talking about a full month and a half, about 2 months away from really getting into the heart of postseason softball. Oklahoma will be, I can't assure you. I have a good feeling they will still be alive during those weeks there at the end of May. But basketball. There's a lot of stuff out there just in terms of the transfer portal Moser, if you will. And certainly on Wednesday morning, over the course of the first portion of this week, there's been some developments in the portal with Sean Padula, a bunch of guys that have Oklahoma ties. Let's get into some of those real quick. Even though it's a stickball report, it still does have a ball, and there is some basketball stuff to take care of.
Yeah, I mean, when Ortega hits the portal Monday, none of us are really shocked.
Right.
Whatever happened the last 2 months of the season, he wasn't the same guy. It just felt like the writing was on the wall that, not that OU was pushing him out, but that he just didn't want to be there for whatever reason. So now you had 2 portal scholarships to use, and you might not have to look very far if Sean Padula ends up being one of them. From Edmond Memorial, averaged 16 points per game this last season at Virginia Tech, where he spent the last 3 seasons, and someone that absolutely would fit what OU is trying to do. He would be check off that box about needing another guard in the system. And from Wednesday morning until we're almost getting to the late afternoon now, all momentum is with the Sooners, just from multiple sources, from Edmond Memorial sources to OU to people that just cover the portal. This feels really, really good as maybe being the first portal commitment for the Sooners.
Who could be, and I think that there's an idea out there when you look at the other guys that are in the portal right now. There is a spirit or an offering or a rally cry that they could have a lot of homecomings for a lot of Oklahoma guys. Another one of those guys is Kevin Overton from Drake, who obviously makes the run into the NCAA tournament, ends up getting beat in the second round. His head coach is now out of there with Darian DeVries going to West Virginia, taking his son Tucker with him. But Kevin Overton enters the transfer portal. He has an interesting history with Oklahoma at the state.
Yeah, I mean, he played at Norman North with Porter's son. So if ever Porter got a chance to watch Norman North, because I know those Tuesday games usually when students were playing too. But, I mean, they know a lot about him and the way that his game has developed since going to Sunrise, since going to Drake. He feels like a much different player compared to even what I saw at Norman North when he was, in his underclassmen days. And, put 11 points up as a freshman. You can build on that. You can work with that. There's nothing, being a legitimate 6'5", that's something you can build on too. And, I mean, if you can get 2 guys from the portal that you have zero questions about, you're not taking a flyer. You're not like, well, I hope this guy pans out.
Yeah.
You feel very confident that these 2 are absolutely the pieces that you need. Then you go ahead and you try to make that leap, make it happen.
The third guy on this triad is Brandon Garrison, who I'm sure a lot of people out there are very familiar with, the freshman from Oklahoma State that, simply put, one of the biggest gets that you could have in the transfer portal. Any development or anything, any dots kind of being connected just in terms of Oklahoma's pursuit.
The only thing I've really learned the last 48 hours, Sooners are not going away. They want to make this happen. I think it would probably be the biggest NIL deal that they've ever offered in basketball. Still don't know if it's going to be enough.
Sure.
But they don't want to lose this because of lack of resources or lack of effort. So they're going to be there until the end, and we'll see what other schools stick there with Garrison. Is now we're starting to see other centers jump into the portal.
Right.
And, Garrison was the top dog. Now he's one of several top dogs. So when do these schools say, I don't want to mess with this, I'm going to try for that Stanford kid or something like that? And OU will stick with Garrison for as long as they realistically believe they're still in the hunt.
If they can't get him, I'll settle for Peja Stojakovic's kid from Stanford. That wouldn't be too bad. We'll see where he ends up, though. That should be it's going to be really interesting to track. And I think that, maybe a little bit different than football, it seems like a bunch of these basketball guys find homes rather quickly after entering the transfer portal.
Yeah, and with the portal window changing from 60 to 45 days, May 1st it's over.
Sure.
So we've already gone through like the first 2 weeks of it, and you're seeing it with the coaching changes. Everything is just so accelerated. People want to make sure they still have their spot.
Right.
So they're ready to make that type of jump. I will say I don't believe OU's in the visit stage yet. I don't think they definitely didn't have any last weekend. I don't believe they'll have any with Easter weekend. But I got to think by next weekend or next week, it's time to start bringing these guys in and making things happen.
Just to really kind of recap everything, Otega Oweh does enter the transfer portal. It is what it is. I feel like this is a situation that's probably best for both parties. Everybody can kind of get a little bit of a fresh start. At the same time, in terms of retention, you feel better or worse about anybody outside of Los Uzon, who you mentioned?
We're still sort of waiting to see if Los will officially enter. I feel like he will. I feel like that's pretty much going to be a done deal when, not if. But I feel confident that Jacob Cole and Caden Cooper are coming back.
Great news.
And that would be a shot in the arm. And a little bit of the Moser naysayers have been like, oh, those guys are leaving. Not necessarily. Sometimes you understand what that role is. If you're Cole, you're redshirted, you're coming off the torn ACL, the fractured foot, get better completely. No more questions. Be ready to go. Caden Cooper, you learned under Latrey Darthard and Rivaldo Soares, Otega. Now you're ready. This is your moment to become that type of guy. And, that's what we said about Cooper the entire time. Like, he could leave, but the door's opening right at the time at this time.
You'd be leaving for the opportunity that's right there in front of you.
That's still there. So if you still trust in what Moser and staff and their plan for you, then there's no reason to bolt. To just suck it up, get through it, and be ready to roll next season.
It's really harsh to say it like this, but it feels like with the crop that's out there in the portal, with everything that could be, I guess, used against Oklahoma, if it's NIL or whatever, this is kind of one of those first times, and maybe a little bit of a time that maybe never will happen again. Maybe it's just coincidence or ironic. There's a lot of ties back to the state of Oklahoma. This feels like a boom or bust situation. You really need to hit on some of these Oklahoma guys.
And it's something Porter's always tried to do. Ethan Shagwell, Marvin Johnson, Sam Godwin. Like, he always has tried to get that local flavor to give, because he knows what it means. It'll mean different.
Yeah.
Instead
Tug at the heartstrings, even if that's the right or wrong
there you go.
way. It doesn't matter how you get them to campus.
Be a one-year rental that has no attachment whatsoever, and compared to like someone that grew up going to Lloyd Noble, going to these games, and now they've got a chance to put on the jersey, a second chance to get things right. We see it a lot in football too. Yeah. It's like maybe whatever reason it didn't work out, that player wasn't ready, or you didn't have a scholarship. 2 years down the road, now it's all coming together. Let's make it happen.
A lot of positive momentum, and going into that fourth year for Porter Moser, it's almost it's a must.
It is.
They have to hit on some of these guys, and I think getting a Sean Padula, and then maybe he can shape a transfer portal class, recruit some of these other guys. It would be a really good thing for Porter Moser and for the longevity of the program, or for Moser's program, to get some of these guys in. It's going to be interesting, Bob. We appreciate it. We will be back right here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel, talking a little softball, talking a baseball recap. Next week, stickball. We're headed out to football on Wednesday yet again. George Stoy and I had a practice report up that you can see right here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. And it's a good time to join Soonerscoop because, obviously, there is a ton going on. And I know that you've already put up some notes on the Padula stuff on Wednesday morning. So it's going to be really kind of interesting, really important for this group to finish out. Oklahoma women's season comes to an end just to kind of cover all the bases with the basketball. Comes to an end on Monday in Bloomington, up 4 with 2:20 left, and Indiana goes on a 10-0 run. Sucks. Maybe it's good news, though, just in terms of not having to go all the way up to Albany, New York, to play South Carolina, who's just, I don't know. It's a different sport for like 3 or 4 teams in women's college basketball. Good to see Paige Becker's back. Team Paige, by the way, if it's her or Caitlin Clark. All right, Bob, we appreciate it. From the Soonerscoop.com studios, we'll talk to you next time.